There have been a few moments growing up where I thought, why am I a gamer? Where I've been better off going outside and doing something actually productive. Yet, video games are some of the earliest vivid memories I have. Visiting my uncle's house when my cousin was playing Resident Evil, or playing Little Green Army Man at my friend's house on the PS1. Even though I enjoyed playing video games growing up, I was never really obsessed with them. I mean, we had consoles and we had games, but my sister and I generally spent most of our time outside playing with the kids on the cul-de-sac. Or I'd play with my Legos and G.I. Joes. Video games are more of a family bonding thing for us, but don't worry, it wasn't that cheesy everyone's eerily happy sort of thing. Our favorite family video games were by far Crash Bandicoot and Spyro. My mom and my sister were obsessed with those two games, and they would always get the sequels and hog the console just to play them. I just could never really get into them. I mean, they were too lighthearted and corny for me, and the sort of games I liked were the ones that we had on the PS1, like Medieval. I was in love with that game. The medieval setting, the undead enemies, the dark, goofy atmosphere. I also really enjoyed when we would play Gex, or Twisted Metal. My mom and my sister really weren't into either of those, but me and my dad would play both of them a lot, especially Twisted Metal, because he loved to whoop me on it. But when my parents upgraded to the PS2, I just wasn't that excited. I mean, we'd play on it here and there, but I just wasn't interested in it. I was more interested in being outside. The games that we had for it just really weren't that appealing to me, until we got Final Fantasy XII. This is when my inner gamer started to channel itself. I spent countless hours on that game. I loved the RPG elements, the storytelling, the beautiful graphics. I didn't even know what the hell was going on most of the time. I just enjoyed playing the game, particularly because the combat was new. I remember my cousin played the old ones, and I just didn't like it because of the turn-based combat. And as my gaming addiction began to take root, I began to explore the world of gaming. I was becoming mature enough that my parents would trust me with more adultish games, which is how I discovered Jak and Daxter. I remember I saw Jak 2 at the store one day, and it looked dark and gritty, which really appealed to me. And then the relationship between the main character and the sidekick was hilarious. But it wasn't just games I took a more keen interest in. I also started to read a lot more, particularly fantasy books. Seeing this, my mom bought me a book from the series called The Edge Chronicles. I became hooked on it. I couldn't wait to get the next book. My mom delved deeper into the fantasy by purchasing a book by Christopher Paolini called Aragon. That book is what made me realize my true love for fantasy, and I absolutely adored the book itself. The sword fighting, the dragons, the romance, the bromance, God, the dwarves, it all appealed to me so much. So naturally, I began trying to find more books and games that were like it. Finally, I decided to put my own money towards my addiction, purchasing an Xbox original for my friend. I remembered scouring a pawn shop looking for games to enjoy since I really had no idea what was out there. This is when I came into contact with the glory that is Morrowind. I started to play it ravenously, exploring everything, killing mudcrabs for pleasure, sneaking around and stealing from shops to get gold just to buy their very armor. I was addicted to it, even more so than Final Fantasy XII. And just when I thought things couldn't have gotten any better, Knights of the Old Republic kicked in the door to my life and gave Morrowind the finger, quickly becoming my ultimate favorite. Eagerly awaiting my chance to become a Jedi, my face when my true identity was revealed to me, and then how I began to feel like a different character entirely, that game was just so ridiculously well done. I could literally shed physical tears for it. Shortly after I beat Knights of the Republic for about the third time, my parents decided to get us a computer. It was shared amongst all of us, and I had my Xbox, so I didn't care too much. That is, until I started searching for games that were on the PC. This is the time I discovered MMOs. I waded deep into the pool of Eastern MMOs until I finally came across Guild Wars. I had left a multitude of free games in my wake, and was willing to cough up some cold hard cash for this game. I checked my local Fred Meyers and discovered it in all of its glory. So my adventure began. A warrior in the world of Tyria, fighting to quell the Tard invaders. Adventuring the lands of Tyria and Morrowind, or exploring the galaxy of Star Wars took time. A lot of time. And to be honest, I was far more content to be alone and live vicariously through these heroes and villains, rather than go outside or over to my friend's house. Stigma is that this creates an antisocial shut-in. Me personally, I didn't like people, so I chose not to go out. But I think playing video games gives players the opportunity to see a lot of tragedies and triumphs they wouldn't otherwise see, as well as the perspective of someone caught up in it, all of which can be realistically emotional and can provide moral scenarios that actually can be provide meaningful insight. But for me, it isn't about life lessons I want to learn, or crying because a certain person's daughter just had to die. I find pleasure in losing myself in their worlds. Escaping reality and accepting a fake one as your own for a small amount of time is simply remarkable. It can create memories just as fun to share as those from any reality, and it's something that we can relate to. Us geeks and nerds are no longer scoffed at by society, but openly embraced, and we all band together swapping stories of how 40 of us brought down the final Titan, or how Leroy ruined the raid. For many people, it honestly can become a secondary life. And that is why I'm a gamer. I'm not just Jordan Kane. I'm Jordan Shepard, or Jordan Kuzland, or the most serious kid from Evolve 101. I've slain dragons. I've killed hundreds and thousands of enemies. I've conquered worlds. I've kicked hundreds of chickens in my lifetime. I've been the savior of planet and the bane of civilizations. I intend to grow my legend for many years to come. I just hope that developers are able to keep up with my appetite and that I never grow tired of them. Because to be honest, I can't really imagine what it'd be like living in a game world without video games.